All right. It took me a long time to get a regular phone, like a smartphone. For the longest time, man, I used a flip model, because maybe 2.5 years ago, I finally said, fuck it, I can't stand it no more because the network sucks really bad and they haven't updated that in forever. But I didn't even have a flip, actually. I had a candy bar. You know what that means? It's a straight phone, doesn't even flip up. But I did that for a reason, right? Because, the amount of distractions, the fucking internet and shit, and having all your apps on there. Also, though, more so because I don't like being tracked. I'm not a big fan of being tracked. Not a big fan of people knowing my private fucking business, except for what I choose to share with them, And smartphones do exactly that. If you ever looked at the apps, I've had this conversation 1,000 fucking times with people that I know, and they got nothing to say, I tell them, when you have a phone or tablet and you install an app, it asks you for all these permissions. It wants permission to turn your fucking mic on and off. It wants permission to turn your camera on and off. It wants permission to read your SD card. It wants permission to have access to everything, to be able to delete stuff from your SD card. It often wants, sometimes where you can shut it off, sometimes where you can't, the ability to go through your contact list, whether it's through your email, through Facebook. So these fucking apps ask for and they want to know your location too. They ask for a ton of fucking permission for things. And I said, part of the reason that I've resisted tablets and these smartphones for so long, and more so the phone because I got a tablet and just put a couple apps that I wanted on it, and then I turned off the fucking wireless and Bluetooth when I wasn't using it, Part of the reason, though, like I said, is these things just want too much. They want too many permissions. I can use Twitter, for example, on my home computer with an account that I create. I don't need to use it on a phone because when I use it on a phone, it makes me agree to allowing it to go to my SD card and every other fucking thing. And I don't want that. I can't stand that shit. So it took a long time till I finally broke down, but I did because, quality of the reception is just better. Having a nice camera on fucking hand, not having to carry a second camera is better, is nice, right? In any event, listening to this Senate grill, Zuckerberg and Dorsey, a couple of really important things came to light there that go along with what I said. And like I said, I tell my friends about this. I say, don't you have an opinion about if they want to know, they're going to find out anyways. They just give the same dumb answers. And I'm like, I think you have to question how much of your personal freedom and your personal information that you're giving up to these places. And nobody ever seemed to be that concerned about it. Well, listening to this shit the last couple days with Dorsey and Zuckerberg, let's start with fucking Zuckerberg. The task system. Holy shit, right? They have a community well-being team, an integrity team, which might mean an election integrity team, a hate speech engineering team. I mean, things seem a little bit fucking crazy, and they do definitely seem that Facebook leans more toward publisher than platform, but we'll get to that in a second. So specifically what they look for, individuals, websites, or hashtags to ban, right? And they got a lot of teams. I mean, those are the ones we heard about. Who knows how many more they have, right? Even more disturbing than that is the fact that they said that this senator that I was talking to, this was Hawley, I believe, said, so we got a guy who's a whistleblower, says that you share this information with, Google, Instagram, of course, and then Twitter. Well, see, I already knew that because when I saw these things on the phones 10 years ago, when I saw these apps for phones and tablets trying to install, I worked on computers, right? And I installed a lot of programs on computers. And aside from asking you where in your drive you want to install the program and whether or not you want certain features, programs just install and then they work or they don't work. And if you either pay for them or they're free, whatever the case is, or you pay a subscription, but they either work or they don't work. But this whole concept of programs, i.e. apps for phones and tablets, was different. It was way more invasive and unnecessarily so. The point of being invasive was not for functionality so much as it was for data mining, right? So now you got this Senator Hawley talking to Zuckerberg, just exploding the data mining that was already in my mind that I knew is they're making it even fucking bigger, right? Talking about how these companies link to each other. And then the biggest revelation of all, Centra, right? Which Zuckerberg claims he doesn't know anything about. Further, I'd point out, every single time Zuckerberg answered a question, he started with Senator. Now, you know what that is? That is him making sure that he gives metered answers that he's not going to get fucked on later, and using a call word or a fucking comeback word or a safety word or a slow down word, whatever fucking way you want to call it. He uses this word to start every sentence to make sure that he answers it in a manner where he's not going to fuck himself later because he's under oath. That cocksucker was lying. Fucking lying like crazy. I mean, what happened to the guy who said, I just created Facebook so I could get laid, so I could meet girls, to now this guy is like, I want to fucking be involved in politics and shape the future of the country. Who the fuck does this guy think he is? Right? I used to think Zuckerberg was all right. You know, a little fucking geek that did something and fucking got rich off of it. Now I'm starting to like, where does he come from? You know, but this Centra, man, this Centra. Let me just tell you what the senator said, that this whistleblower said, what Zuckerberg obviously lied about, didn't deny, but wouldn't acknowledge. So Centra not only tracks you when you're on their platform, Facebook, but it tracks you across the internet. Okay? You visited profiles, Facebook and presumably in other apps, since they communicate so closely with Google and with Twitter, right? And they own Instagram. Message recipients, again, probably every platform. Visited pages. Uses behavioral data to monitor user accounts, including alternative accounts. So you think you got a burner account? It's not a total burner account. They still know about it. I mean, that's the kind of shit that we fear from the fucking government, from the Department of Defense or the NSA or CIC. That's the kind of shit that we acknowledge they probably do, and we call that deep state shit, and we can't stand it. But Facebook fucking does it. And why do they do it? What's their purpose? I mean, even if it's just for advertising, it still isn't excusable. But what if it's for something else? What if it is for shaping shit politically or tracking people? Unacceptable. In addition to that, there's more critical data about yourself. So your name, your actual name, your full name, birthday, address, any phone numbers, which, you know, people give up gladly for two-step verification. All of that, right? Any photos that you tag anywhere, presumably on Facebook or anywhere else, in Google, right? And devices that you use to access the internet. And I'm sure that there's more. Those are just the things that came out while he was talking. There's probably more. That is fucking mind-boggling. So, you know, Zuckerberg, like I said, claims that he doesn't know this tool, Centra, but there's no fucking way that that's true. So just think about what I said. I already didn't like the premise of smartphones. I'm not comfortable always having a phone. I assume that people are listening to me, at least sometimes. The only thing that stops additional or more invasive spying on me personally, or perhaps you personally, is that we're not that important. And that I'm sure once in a while we come up in like a random generator that says check a few seconds of audio here, check a few seconds of video there. And since we're not that important, it probably does not happen to us as much. But the more important you get, the more rich you get, the more of a decision maker influence you are, you've already given away legal right to your fucking privacy by having the device and installing anything on it. And there's no way around it. You know, Google Play, Android, and all of these apps, doesn't really matter what the company, they're all pretty much the same fucking thing, even though they are a lot of different companies. They've all put you in a position, you, the American people, you being us, you being the fucking user of the product, they've all put you in, and this goes for Apple too, even more so. They've all put you in a position where it is impossible to use the device without agreeing to this privacy invasion. It's impossible. Now that's something that the fucking Senate should look at making a law into, because that is ridiculous. And they'll argue, well, you know, this app needs to turn on your fucking location because it needs to monitor, you know, like Google Maps. Well, they have to turn on your location, or else how can they give you directions? Or a program that monitors your heart rate, right? Like a workout program. Well, they have to turn on your fucking location because if you're jogging and they're going to measure your steps, and they can all make an argument for one facet of their invasion of privacy, but the thing is they all ask for all of it. Turn on your mic, turn on your camera, go through your SD card, fucking hook up with your contacts through whatever programs you have installed. And now you add in this Sentra, a tool that they have that databases everything you do. So if you have a Facebook account, hell, if you have ever made a Facebook account, even if you deleted it a while ago, wiped all your fucking data before you delete it, even if you did that, they've just shown that they don't really delete data. It's on their private server somewhere. They've got it somewhere. Whether they got a paper copy or whether they have it digitally databased, more likely digital, but whatever, they've got it somewhere. So this is a huge problem in this country. This is a huge problem. I mean, if you value privacy, this is a huge problem. And the fact that this came out in the Senate hearings was amazing to me. There was somebody else that talked. I don't know who Klobuchar is. I've heard that name, but I'm not sure who she is. I don't even know if she's Republican or Democrat. Sounds like a Democrat. But one interesting thing that came out in there is that they had talked about, because Zuckerberg had said that he wasn't going to take any political ads this year because he was trying to stay away from it. And I'm going to get into his bullshit fact checking. But he had flippantly told her that over the couple of years before that, 2 to 3 years before that, that they made $2 billion off of ad revenue. But that was only a small portion of the revenue. How much money does this fucking guy actually have? Wow. Also, something else that came is that she had asked how much of the stuff that was monitored through them for this violation to this tasks program, how much of it was monitored by an algorithm versus what was monitored by a human. And she made the point that, gee, I think maybe more stuff should be monitored by a human because you keep making mistakes, whereas his argument was, even though he made it very fucking backdoorly, was, well, a machine makes less mistakes than a human. Humans are more prone to error. I don't believe that at all, man. I believe that he fucking wants human to go over everything. I believe that he's got people on top of that shit, that his algorithm may be pointing stuff out, but that people check that shit all the time because he has people who are in the know with how he is politically, whatever it is he's going for, whatever his end game is. So whatever Senator Klobuchar, I'm sure he has plenty of people on his team networking the fucking things that these algorithms are finding. So they're looking at it. I don't think we need more human oversight in that particular arena. And then just real briefly, man, so Zuckerberg's tell was the way that he answered every question with his obvious senator. And then Dorsey, I watched a bunch of that, but the Ted Cruz stuff was especially fun. Cruz has a real fucking hard on for him. And I'll tell you, dude, that Dorsey's got some fucking dead eyes. And he is emotionally flat. I mean, that dude is a textbook sociopath, if I ever fucking seen one. A pretty famous person, so a lot of people, you want to know what a sociopath is? Watch the way that motherfucker answers questions. And I said I was going to get back to this just real briefly. 230 versus publisher, right? We don't really want these platforms to be labeled as a publisher. We, the people, the American people, and the users. We don't really want them to be labeled as a publisher because once they are labeled as a publisher, everybody who doesn't agree with them or adhere to their rules can't play in their fucking park anymore. At the same time, if they're going to continue to be under the 230 protections, they have to stop their company's personal politics influencing every fucking facet of the platform. So the answer here is quite simple. Either these companies have to because everybody in the Senate, it sounds like, at least on the right, wants these people to be switched from 230 to publisher, and I don't think that's really the right way to go. There's really a much simpler solution. You just inform them that we're looking at considering making you a publisher, so you got to re-fucking prioritize and stop taking a political position. Not taking a political position is very easy, as long as you don't start taking a political position. Once you start, and then you kind of start picking through stuff, it gets harder to keep your nose out of it. If you just keep your nose out of it the whole time, it's really not that much of a problem. And then the simple alternative is, because I'm a libertarian, but I also believe in freedom of choice and every other thing. So if they are under 230, that's fine. And if they decide they are going to keep pushing one agenda so you can't talk about certain things on their platform, I can also say that's fine and fuck them. And it's my choice to not use them. So the correct, viable thing to do here is to have somebody else. That's all it is somebody else. We already see what the success formula is. It's easy. We already see what YouTube does as a video hoster. We already see what Twitter does as a fucking content spreader, or Instagram or Snapchat. And we already see what Facebook does, which, if you don't remember, Facebook in the beginning did everything. Facebook was the Instagram and the Twitter and the Snapchat, and people used to do it. Sometimes people would write things that were text. Sometimes people would post pictures. Sometimes they would, all these things that these other apps came out later and separated and differentiated themselves for used to all be under the umbrella of Facebook. Facebook used to be the place to do that kind of shit. But like going on personal diatribes, for example, whether it's about politics or music or fucking any other thing, that used to be something that people did on Facebook along with other stuff, but now that's kind of pushed over to Twitter. Taking a shit ton of pictures about one topic or just pictures in general, that used to be something that was done on Facebook, among other things, but now it's kind of gotten pushed over to Instagram. And that's the development there. So whatever the reason that happened, whatever the reason those other programs came, that's what these guys do. And all you really need to do, since you've seen the formula, is create alternatives. So I myself have been using Parler. It takes a little bit of getting used to. It's not as streamlined as Twitter, and they got to fix that. But it also, so far, does not have the censorship that Twitter does. It definitely allows right-leaning views, and to this point, I haven't seen any censorship of any kind of left-wing views. There are not a lot of left-wing users on that platform yet. And as far as alternate video hosting, now there are a lot of alternate video hosting sites that have been out there for years that haven't gotten anywhere. Partially because they didn't do it that well, partially because they didn't buy enough server time, their interface wasn't as good as YouTube, and there hasn't been quite as much necessity. But I tell you, I'm also putting my videos on BitChute because I'm getting ready for the day where I can't use YouTube in case that happens. And there's a newer one, Rumble, that I've been working on too. And my username's the same on all of these because, when you get into stuff early enough, you get lucky and you get to pick your username. Like I've been 202D since 2006, which is probably the only reason that I have that short and easy of a fucking name, because you could never go on YouTube right now and make up something that's that you never get. There's too many, just like an email address. Like you can't be fucking Joe Johnson at or whatever because somebody did that 10 years ago or 20 years ago. They took all those stuff. But since those other platforms are new, you could still get a cool handle, something that isn't taken by everybody already. So you get on these platforms, but that's what people got to do, man. Parler just has to get better. Rumble or BitChute just have to get better, and more people have to use them. And the more they use them, the more demand it is, and the better they'll get. And hopefully they won't fuck it up with censorship or overly invasive advertising. Greed. Which everybody does, because I really want to fucking make some money, and now instead of having 10,000 users a month on average, I got 100,000, or I got fucking 4 million, so now I'm going to really cream people for ad money. That's what happens. These people get greedy. So hopefully that won't be the case with them, but that is exactly what we have to do. And, I would encourage the lefties to join those things too, especially Parler, because, from what I know of the people that run that, they're not going to be into censoring speech. They'll be into some debate, and they'll fucking argue with you, and it might get heated, but they're not going to block your account and keep putting up bullshit, false, baseless data fact check bullshit that essentially just tries to dissuade people from hearing your point of view. That's it.